Imagine this. You spend years, maybe even a decade, building the ultimate weapon, a key that could pretty much unlock the future. And then, what do? You lock it away in a closet because you're absolutely terrified of what it might do. Well, that is exactly what Google did. And then, as you might guess, a rival found the blueprints, built their own version, and pointed it right back at Google's head.
So yeah, this is the story of how Google literally created the technology that now threatens its entire empire, and how that one decision triggered an all-out code red panic inside, one of the most powerful companies on the entire planet. All right, so how on earth did we get to this point? Well, first things first, we got to understand that Google didn't just stumble into AI. For years, they were the undisputed architects. They were laying the very foundation for, well, pretty much everything we're seeing today. Okay, so before 2017, the whole AI world was running on these models called LSTMs. Now, they were powerful, for sure, but they were slow. They worked sequentially, which is kind of like trying to read a book by looking at only one word at a time. It was a huge bottleneck. Even Google's super impressive translation service back in 2016 was built on this, one foot in front of the other kind of technology. They desperately needed a leap. And that leap? Oh, it came in 2017, and it came in the form of a research paper with this deceptively simple title, Attention is All You Need. 8 Google researchers published this thing, and it introduced a brand new architecture called the Transformer. And yes, you guessed it, that is the T in ChatGPT. Google literally, and I mean literally, invented the engine that now powers its biggest rival. The impact of this paper wasn't just big, it was an absolute bombshell. We're talking over 173,000 citations. To put that in perspective, that's insane. It basically became the blueprint for the entire modern field of AI. Everyone, and I mean everyone, started building on top of Google's foundation. And this right here is the absolute heart of the story. See, Google didn't just have the theory on paper. They had a working, honest-to-goodness conversational AI. It was called LaMDA. And insiders say they had tech that could do what Bard does now more than 2 years before it ever saw the light of day. They had the weapon, it was fully functional, and it just sat there, locked in the lab. So the billion-dollar question is, why? Well, the answer lies in this classic business trap. The kind that's taken down giants before. It's that classic story of what happens when your greatest success becomes your biggest weakness. It has a name, actually. It's called the Innovator's Dilemma. The idea is simple. You invent something new and totally revolutionary, but you know that releasing it would absolutely kill your main cash cow. So you're stuck, essentially handcuffed by your own success. And for Google, man, those handcuffs weren't just handcuffs, they were made of solid gold. Okay, think about Google search. It's a golden goose, right? It lays over $200 billion a year in ad revenue. That whole business is built on one thing, you clicking on links. But an AI chatbot, it just gives you the answer. There are no clicks. There's no ad revenue. So for them, releasing their own powerful AI was basically like taking that golden goose out back and, well. So, yeah, they hesitated. They were paralyzed, not just by the financial risk, but by the risk to their reputation. What if the AI just made stuff up? We call them hallucinations now. What if that caused some huge scandal? Or what about all the biases hidden in the data? For a company like Google, with literally everything to lose, playing it safe felt like the only move. Meanwhile, you had a scrappy startup like OpenAI, and they had absolutely nothing to lose. And that single difference, having everything to lose versus having nothing to lose, that is exactly what set the stage for the moment that sent Google spiraling into a full-blown, company-wide panic.
November 2022. That's the date everything changed. OpenAI did the one thing Google wouldn't. They released ChatGPT to the public. And the response wasn't just positive, it was electric. It wasn't just popular, it became the fastest-growing app in the history of, history. The world literally changed overnight. And just like that, Google was completely on the back foot.
The threat was so real, so existential, that CEO Sundar Pichai declared a code red. Just think about that for a second. A company-wide emergency alarm. Reports started flooding out that the founders themselves, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, were being pulled out of retirement just to help steer the ship. The whole narrative flipped. It went from Google is the undisputed leader in AI to Google is a sleeping giant that's about to get slayed.
So they were scrambling.
They rushed their own AI chatbot out to the public in a hurry. It was this rushed defensive move, basically, to show the world that they could still dance, which is how Microsoft's CEO had taunted them. And they called this rushed response Bard. And that rushed response led to an unmitigated disaster. In their very own promotional video, the one designed to show off how powerful Bard was, the AI made a simple but very obvious factual error. And you better believe the world noticed.
The market's reaction was swift, and it was brutal. In one single day, $100 billion of Google's stock value vanished. Poof, gone. A $100 billion typo. The very thing, the reputational risk they had been so afraid of for years, it had just come true in the most public, most humiliating way possible. But now, they had no choice left. They had to fight.
Okay, so after the whole Bard disaster, Google knew that playing defense was a losing game. It just wasn't going to cut it anymore. They had to go on the offensive. And that meant reorganizing the entire company to finally unleash the full force of their research and take back the AI throne. So what was their first move? A massive internal consolidation. See, for years, Google's top AI talent was split between two legendary and often competing divisions. You had Google Brain on one side and DeepMind on the other. In April 2023, they finally merged them into a single supergroup Google DeepMind for one reason: to accelerate progress and fight back against ChatGPT.
And with that move, the strategy became crystal clear. Step 1, consolidate all your power. Step 2, focus all that brain power on building your true weapon, a next-gen model they called Gemini. And Step 3, deploy the future. And by that, I mean moving way beyond just simple text. We're talking about a truly multimodal AI, an AI that can see, hear, and speak, one that understands the world not just through words, but through images, audio, and video. You know, the kind of advanced tech they'd been sitting on for years.
But here's where the story takes a turn. Just as Google was reorganizing itself for this epic head-to-head battle with OpenAI, a completely new kind of threat started to emerge on the horizon. And this one wasn't coming from a single company. It was coming from everywhere, all at once.
And this is the crucial twist in the tale. A memo, supposedly written by a senior researcher inside Google, gets leaked to the public. And what it said was just stunning. It said, and I'm quoting here, "We have no moat." A moat, is a competitive advantage. But it didn't stop there. It went on, and neither does OpenAI. The real threat wasn't another tech giant. Nope, it was something else entirely. What was it? The open source community. You see, while Google and OpenAI were acting like two giant sharks circling each other in the ocean, a massive swarm of mosquitoes was rising up from the swamp. We're talking about a global movement of thousands of independent developers, all collaborating online, iterating at lightning speed, and releasing AI models that are smaller, faster, and way cheaper. You can't buy them, you can't control them, you can't copy them because they're not one single thing. For every single step a giant like Google takes, this swarm takes 1,000 steps in every possible direction.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question. I mean, look, Google has incredible advantages, right? Decades of data, more computing power than almost anyone, and some of the world's best researchers. But in a war against not one rival, but thousands of them, did their hesitation at the very beginning cost them everything? Can they still win the war that they technically started, or has the future already slipped right through their fingers?